thinking up there. Yours is here. I've got it here.
A few final reminders. If the window next to your seat is open, please make sure it's securely fastened above the friction safety latch. If you haven't already done so, please tear off the perforated little barcoded stuff on your ticket and have that little stuff ready for your trainman. Then come to your car to collect your ticket. Also, notify your trainman if you're interested in getting off at Gross Picnic Grove or Cherry Crest Adventure Farm. Thank you very much for your cooperation and welcome aboard the Strasburg Railroad by an act of the Pennsylvania Legislature on June 9, 1832. For over a century and 3/4, this little railroad has been serving the communities of Strasburg and Paradise without cessation. This is not an enterprise that sprang up yesterday. Over 8 generations of passengers have rode the road to Paradise before you folks got here. Shortly we'll be passing Fairview Road, and you'll notice a row of multicolored cabooses on the left-hand side of the train. These multicolored cabooses belong to the Red Caboose Lodge and Restaurant, where you can sleep overnight in a real railroad caboose. And just beyond that, you will find the National Toy Train Collectors Museum, housing a fabulous collection of antique toy trains. Fairview Crossing is next. Fairview. The Strasburg Railroad is not only the second oldest public utility in all of Pennsylvania, it's the oldest railroad in continuous operation in the entire continent of North America. The railroad is owned by a group of local stockholders and dedicated railroad buffs. It was back in 1958 when 24 dedicated railroad buffs purchased the line to save it from bankruptcy and abandonment. This group organized in a most unusual corporate fashion, with 1 president and 23 vice presidents. They all donated their time, their money, and much hard work, strictly as a labor of love, for the fun of railroading and for the good of the cause. Every nickel of profit was plowed right back into the railroad. In fact, the Strasburg continues this tradition of historic preservation. On average, the railroad will spend between $250,000 to $750,000 restoring each of these antique locomotives and cars. And none of it is done using any state or federal subsidies or stimulus packages. It's all paid for by you, our passengers. Now coming into view on the left-hand side of the train is Espen Shane's Turkey Farm, the oldest continuously operated turkey farm in the United States, as verified by Poultry World magazine. Yes, folks, you heard that correctly. There actually is a Poultry World magazine. And believe me when I tell you, that's one centerfold you just don't want to see. It's a very busy place, especially in November and December, when it's not a very good time to be a turkey. That's when you bargain for a Thanksgiving turkey right across their kitchen table. They have been in business for almost 8 generations. Espenshade Crossing is next. Espenshade.
And they have some wild horses. They should just do with their feeder. Back when the cows all running into the feeder. So I love watching the show.
We're very happy to have you with us today, enjoying steam railroading on the road to paradise. A few words about the passenger equipment that you are riding in. We try to restore our equipment to its original condition, but in all cases we try to keep it accurate to the period 1910 to 1930. These cars were used on a variety of eastern railroads in central Pennsylvania and in northern New England, including the Boston and Maine, the Philadelphia and Reading, and western Maryland lines. They are made of solid oak and mahogany, and those coal-fed pot-bellied stoves are not just for appearances. We do in fact use them during the cold winter months. And the cars were carefully restored by our master craftsmen in the shops of the Strasburg Railroad Company. As you look out your window, spread up before you is Lancaster County's beautiful farmland. Today, we will travel past 21 working Amish and Mennonite farms, and some of the most productive and beautiful land that Pennsylvania has to offer. And in just a few moments, you will see yet another way that our farmers are working to preserve their farms.
Thank you.
We are now passing through the Cherry Crest Adventure Farm, home of the world-famous Amazing Maids Corn Maze. They have games, music, food, 50 fun attractions, a petting zoo. It's fun for the entire family. The attractions at this farm represent yet another way that our farmers are working to preserve their farms in the face of ever-increasing development pressure. Cherry Crest is open late May or early November. Cherry Hill is next. Cherry Hill. Shortly, our train will pass Ross Grove. We will not stop for passengers in this direction. However, in the summer months, when 2 trains are running like today, we stop here to meet the other train and discharge Pinnekers on the return portion of our trip. This is one of the very few places in the entire country where you can witness 2 steam-powered passenger trains passing each other on a regular basis. As we go into the siding in Ross Grove, and you look out the left side of the train, you will see train number 2, led by locomotive number 89.
Yeah. You're right. Cherry Crest Adventure Farm.
As you look out the right side of the train, you'll notice a big white farm in the valley to the right, at about the 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock position. 2 large silos and 2 greenhouses. This represents a typical Lancaster County Amish farm. Neat and clean, but very plain. There are no carpets, no curtains, no electric lights, no radio, television or telephones, no computers, no cell phones, and no automobiles. This farmer drives a horse and buggy, and there are plenty of big workhorses, mules, and bullock rams to help with the hard work of farming. In addition to dairy cattle, the produce consists of corn, wheat, rye, grain, barley, hay, alfalfa, soybeans, and the famous Lancaster County broadleaf tobacco. These are peaceful, prosperous, and pious people, contributing greatly to the farm economy of Lancaster County, and we're very proud to have them as our neighbors. Attention, all children on board the train. Do you believe in ghosts? Well, do I have a story for you. Many years ago, in the second valley to your right, just beyond that last bunch of trees over there,
I turned off my camera the wrong time.
He turned off his camera of the train.
I missed the ghost story.
You missed the ghost story.
Oh well.
You got the train going fast though?
Now, I heard someone say echo. Oh, come on. No. That's not an echo, folks. Why, we pay that ghost $27.50 a day just to do that. That makes the ghost the highest paid employee on our railroad. Nobody's ever seen the ghost, but somebody keeps cashing all those paychecks. Speaking of ghosts, that's Carpenter's Graveyard coming up ahead and off to your left. Is there anyone on board for the graveyard? Up on the hill in that graveyard, which happens to be one of the oldest in Lancaster County, is buried Marie Ferry, a French Huguenot who fled France for England in the early 1700s to escape religious persecution. This is where they obtained a land grant for 2.5 square miles of land from William Penn, and finally arrived here in 1712. It was they who named their colony Paradise. Now back then, about 300 years ago, this was America's frontier. And only Marie Ferry, her followers, the Pequot Indians, and Hans Herd and his followers were here at the time. Now we're approaching the Strasburg's one and only bridge, about 16 feet long. This new bridge replaced an older one to accommodate the railroad's growing stream of incoming freight traffic. And we have discovered through some rather unscientific research that if you lift your feet up off the floor, it will take some weight off the car and therefore stress off the bridge, preserve the life of the bridge. Well, that makes sense to me, so do me a favor. When your car crosses over the Pumpkinville Turnpike Bridge, lift your feet up off the floor. Get ready, because here we go.
Here we go.
Well, thank you very much, folks. We've once again made it safely across the Pumpkinville Turnpike Bridge. Just keep in mind, I read these jokes. I don't write them. For the past 4 miles, we've been traveling through the heart of what is commonly known as the Dutch country, the fertile farmland of the Plain people, the Mennonites, the Dunkers, and the Amish. Within a 20-mile radius of the Strasburg Railroad, you will find more than 75,000 of these Plain people. They live a quiet, peaceful life of hard work and deep religious devotion, exactly as our forefathers did when they arrived from Germany, Switzerland, and Porsche for France over 300 years ago. Nothing has changed really. Their style of dress, their mode of travel, their entire way of life is the same today as it was almost 3 centuries ago. Main line. This was the original route of the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad, which became part of the mighty Pennsylvania Railroad in 1857. This was an important stop on the Pennsy, with more than 30 trains per day scheduled in 1898. 4 mainline tracks remained until 1961. Today, only 2 tracks owned by Amtrak remain, and more than a dozen trains still pass here daily, but they don't ever slow down. In the earliest days of railroading, when trains were pulled by horses, this was a horse-changing station. Where the white buildings stand today, once stood Henry Lemon's Hotel. He supplied fresh horses for the train and refreshments for the passengers. Also, on February 22nd, 1861, a very special train carrying President-elect Abraham and Mrs. Lincoln stopped here briefly, where he addressed a crowd of several thousand people as he journeyed to his inauguration and destiny in Washington, D.C. A little more than 4 eventful years later, another special train passed in the opposite direction, bearing their slain president's body on its sad journey back to Illinois. Paradise will be next. Soon, you will be in paradise. Paradise, change here for Coatesville, Downingtown, Parksburg, Paoli, Philadelphia, Trenton, Newark, and New York. Well, if you can run fast enough to catch an Amtrak train, that is. Now you may find it a little bit difficult to believe, folks, but this is Paradise. Paradise, Pennsylvania. And now you can only say you've been to Paradise and back. We will be here for just a few minutes while we move our locomotive around to the opposite end of our train for the return trip. You might wish to take this opportunity to stand up, step into the aisle, and pull back on that seat. If you're seated in coach or open-air car, your backrest will move in the opposite direction. You're more than welcome to do that now. The steam locomotive pulling our train today is number 90, built in 1924 by the Baldwin Locomotive Works, based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which happens to be the largest of the 3 locomotive manufacturers. It weighs 210 tons and originally ran on the Great Western Railroad in Loveland, Colorado, hauling sugar beet trains. Its tender carries 15 tons of coal and 9,000 gallons of water. On a typical round trip, number 90 will consume about 600 pounds of coal, all hand shoveled scoop by scoop by our firemen into an 1800-degree firebox. And it will use almost 1,000 gallons of water, or about as much as was contained in your swimming pool back home. And this is for each trip that we'll make today. In just a few moments, we'll bring 210 tons of locomotive number 90 right past your window. So get those cameras ready because it makes an outstanding photo opportunity. Our engineer today is Dan and our fireman is Paul. Please be sure to give them a really big wave, yell and cheer as they pass by. It makes them very happy. And besides, we wouldn't want them to leave us here in paradise now, would we? Also passing through the train at this time is our train photographer. If you wish to have your group photo taken, simply flag them down. There is no obligation to buy. Purchase your photo back at the Railroad Photo Studio back in the station area. It makes a perfect souvenir of your visit with us today. Smells of old-time steam railroading here on the road to paradise. Pint-sized poker belly, and our 20 cars ride for our smaller patrons. Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania across the street. It's the state's most popular museum, with an outstanding collection of locomotives, cars, and thousands of other artifacts and exhibits of railroad interest. Parents and grandparents, take note. The Railroad Museum has a locomotive cab simulator you can operate yourself, a hands-on activity children's center, and a model train layout for the kids. You won't want to miss the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. It's open daily most days until 5 p.m. As our 9-mile journey over the rails of history draws to a close, we hope you enjoyed your visit with us today. We want to thank each and every one of you for riding with us. Because after all, it's you who make all of this possible. The ticket you bought not only got you a ride on America's oldest short line, it's also a contribution to preserving the past and our beautiful Lancaster County farmland. Grand Central Station, East Strasburg, is next. A final reminder about safety. There we go with those safety rules again. Wait until the train has come to a complete stop at the station before leaving your seat. Watch your step and be on the station side only. Remember, the golden rule when crossing the tracks is to stop, look both ways, and listen. Locomotive number 90 will pass by on the parking lot side of the train. Secure those distracting electronic devices and refrain from crossing the tracks until the locomotive has safely passed. Last but not least, be sure to check the area around you and make sure you have all of your personal possessions. Car keys, cell phones, wallet, purses, leaving nothing behind. From all of us at the Strasburg Railroad Company, do take the time to visit the idyllic Pennsylvania Dutch country, all of the value and attractions on the station hall, and please have a safe and careful trip home. Join us again sometime soon for another journey on the road to paradise. Remember, the next time you travel, why not take the train? It's a lot safer than your car, and a lot more fun too. Grand Central Station, East Strasburg, is next.
Hey, look at it. I know.
side of the train, and once they're in the clear, we will resume our journey back to East Strasburg. Get those cameras ready and take as many pictures as you can of locomotive 89, and be sure to stick your tongue out at the crew. They absolutely love it. Shortly, they'll be passing the left-hand side of the train, and once they're in the clear, we will resume our journey back to East Strasburg. Get those cameras ready and take as many pictures as you can of locomotive 89, and be sure to stick your tongue out at the crew. They absolutely love it.